Welcome to the fourth and last part of my project on the management of my company, Leclerc Investment. We previously went over the foundation of human resources management. We explored the work, the planning, and the employment. After we saw how we develop and reward employees correctly. And finally, we talked about the employee rights. Today, we will see how the labor relations and collective bargaining can affect all of these human resources operations, as well as how it affects them inside an international business. First, let's talk about the unions and how they affect human resources management. Our employees aren't part of unions, of any union, but I'm still going to explain the concepts about labor relations and collective bargaining. The main purpose of unions is to provide equality in the workplace. They have a long history in Canada, and many laws govern the labor relations. All labor legislation, whether federal or provincial, has certain features in common. The right of people to join unions, the requirement that employers recognize a certified union as the rightful and exclusive bargaining agent for that group of employees, the identification of unfair labor practices, the rights of unions to strike, and the rights of employers to lock out workers. The Canada Labour Code regulates the labor legislations in Canada, while each province has a labor relations board with the exception of Quebec, where there is a labor court and commissioners. The purpose of these provincial institutions is to process union applications to represent employees, process applications to terminate union bargaining rights, hear unfair labor practices complaints, and issue decisions regarding strikes, lockouts, and picketing. All of these regulations affect the way employers and employees work. Whenever employees feel like they're not being treated fairly, they can bargain with the employer collectively. When the employees pursue this direction, the labor relations program process begins. A labor relations system is a framework of the environment, the people, the processes, and the results. The laws mentioned in the previous slide regulate each of these areas. Employees join unions for many reasons, the main ones being unhappiness with wages, benefits, and working conditions. Employees could also join unions when they are dissatisfied with the managers or when they feel that they are not being treated fairly. In the end, employees will join a union if they feel that the benefits of joining it will outweigh the cost associated with the membership. Once the employees have decided to join the union, there are a few steps by which unions organize employees and gain recognition as their bargaining agent. First, employees contacted union and meet with an organizer to discuss next steps and timelines. Then, employees sign membership cards and authorize the union to represent them. The unions emits the required minimum number of cards to the appropriate provincial labor board for a decision. The labor board then holds a secret ballot where all eligible employees vote. Finally, the union informs the employer that it wishes to commence collective bargaining. During this process, the labor board ensures that no unfair labor practices will arise. Obviously, unionization has many impacts on the managers. In fact, it affects the ability of managers to make decisions about employees. Also, unions can have impacts on the management's flexibility, but also on the company's ability to operate efficiently. National unions help organize, train, educate local unions. Local unions then negotiate collective agreements and process member grievances. But what is the collective bargaining process? Well, once a union wins bargaining rights for employees, its main functions are to negotiate the collective agreement and resolve member complaints, often on the wages, hours, employee benefits, job security, and other conditions of work. Both the union and the employer will use tactics and strategies to negotiate the collective agreement. For example, they determine what each party's goals are and how far will one go to achieve them. They consider if the union will strike or if the employer will lock out. They separate issues into monetary and non-monetary. They have sufficient factual reasons to support what is being proposed. They identify a likely timetable to conclude a new collective agreement without a dispute, and they identify the nature of the union. Every negotiation has to respect good faith bargaining to reach an agreement. During the negotiations, the union and the employer each have power to enforce their bargaining demands. Unionized workers could refuse to perform their work during labor negotiations, which is called a strike. Also, they could stand in front of entrances of the employer to prevent people from conducting business with the employer. This is called picketing. On the other hand, the employer could operate during strikes or using a lockout, in which the employer denies employees the opportunity to work by closing its operations. At the end of the negotiations, a collective agreement is signed by both parties. In the collective agreements, there are issues concerning management rights. Management rights could either be considered as residual rights, which says that the management's authority is supreme in all matters except those it has expressly conceded in the collective agreement, or as defined rights, which are intended to reinforce and clarify which rights are exclusively those of management. If something in the collective agreement has been violated, the union can make a complaint. This is what we call the grievance process. This process consists of 4 steps. First of all, there will be an informal meeting to discuss grievance between employee and manager. Then, there will be a written complaint between the next level manager and the union official. Thirdly, there will be a written document between the manager and the union business agent in a face-to-face meeting. Finally, the arbitration step is frequently handled by lawyers and consists of a judicial function. Now, let's talk about how the international human resources management can impact the day-to-day operations in a business. Here at Leclerc Investment, we plan to expand our company internationally in the long-term future, but we have already analyzed the human resources aspect that come into play when doing businesses in other countries. First of all, we have to understand the different types of organizational forms used by companies with international operations. There are multinational firms, which are fully autonomous units operating in multiple countries. There are international firms, which are domestic firms that use existing capabilities to move into global markets. Then there are transnational firms, which are firms that attempt to balance local responsiveness with the efficiencies of a global firm. And finally, global firms, which are multinational firms that maintain control back in the home offices. No matter the type of firm, companies will move or expand their operations depending on which country provides the best economic return. Other factors need to be considered by HR are the trade agreements and cultural factors, including language, religion, values, education, and social structure. If we do take our operations in other countries, we will hire a specialized HR manager for our foreign offices in order to manage possible challenges and complexities. Being in international business can change certain operations of HR management. For the recruitment and selection process, we must develop a strategic plan on how to best manage and coordinate a culturally diverse workforce. When hiring employees, companies can either send people from their home country, which we call expatriates, or they can hire employees who are natives in the host country. However, employee recruitment in other countries is more regulated than in Canada. 4 concrete steps are required to select expatriate employees. First of all, we encourage self-identification, so people who are interested in working abroad can volunteer. After, we create a pool of candidates that could be fit for the job. Then, We ensure that the persons are best fit for the job and for the location as well. We have to consider the person's ability to do the job, to speak different languages, to adapt to new environments, to make effective decisions, to work in teams, and to respect diversity. To decrease the failure rate of our expatriate employees, we will make sure to offer employment of the spouse of the expatriate. Another aspect that is affected by international operations is the training and development. That is why, before sending our expatriate employees, we will help them and their families adapt with a training program. This program will consist of the country's history, politics, religions, and economy, its cultures and values, its currency and its banking system, its transportation and housing, its laws and issues pertaining to safety and security, its availability for food, and its expectations regarding social and business etiquette. We want to avoid any culture shock, which is the ongoing stress and unhappiness due to the inability to adapt to a new way of life. And we also want to promote career development, even to employees working abroad. Performance management is also affected by international operations. We will make sure to review our employees' work by giving them feedback from the same international location as well as from the home office. When giving feedback to our expatriate employees, we will create and maintain a trusting relationship between the employee and the manager. We will help employees identify and focus on the most important objectives. We will be involved in all aspects of the employees' lives to ensure that no external issues are creating problems. We will establish regular meetings, whether in person or via technology, and we will hold employees accountable for outcomes. We will use a return on investment approach to determine the weaknesses of the training and development program. In addition, we will ensure a good international reward and recognition program. Compensation can vary depending on which country employees work in. Some cultures emphasize monetary rewards, whereas others focus on the job security, respect, work and life balance, or time off from work. Salaries of host country managers are often based on the local salary standards, and expatriate employees are usually paid either in their home country currency or in the currency of the location of the job. Expatriate employees have to be rewarded effectively if we want the international assignment to be enticing and interesting. The last aspect affected by international operations is the labor relations. The laws concerning labor relations in other countries differ significantly from Canada. In fact, in some countries, the government is more involved in determining the wage rates, even with the unionized staff. In some countries, such as Germany, more employees contribute to the labor participation in management. This is what concludes the final part on the human resources management of my company. Today, we have seen that unions are a way for employees to fight for their rights in the workplace, and that HR strategy and policies differ from here in Canada when a company has operations in other countries. Thank you for listening.